Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today, with Lex Imperialis right around the corner, we have a slight change of plans. You know, my original intent was to dive into Cassia's thing, which would have taken us into this cluster of sectors over here, the Cauldron. But there's a lot going on over there, I assume, not just related to Cassia, but also Pascal, Argenta, possibly Adira as well. And it just feels like a bad idea to get mixed up in all that stuff right before the new guy rolls in. So instead, I figured we'd go ahead and just set our sights on some smaller game. Our ultimate destination is Langrand's Belt, where we've got 2 side quests currently pointing us. Elusive pirates, and more notably, a possible reunion with Travantius. I'm sure I'll be thrilled. But before either of those, we've actually got something going on right here in Mundus Nullius. A lost Imperial colony. Not sure if it's supposed to be one of ours, but I guess we'll find out momentarily. Let's give it a peek. Ice World. Is that? No. No, that's not the weapon factory. That's closer to center. Oh, wow. Actual landing site. Okay. Off to a strong start. Let's see what's going on. Ruined Palace. Seeing bloodstains on the floor all around that little, central council area. Floor object off right.
Always keep your eye on the price.
Let's get some context here. Ancient servitor that we can talk to. Blood-signed decree. Decree of gubernatorial will. By the grace of the God Emperor of mankind, we, Gemon Nigel von Powen, for the good of our world and the deliverance of our people from the wrath of the heavens and the fury of distant stars, hereby command to provide for the needs of the governor's office. No more and no fewer than 20 faithful young men and maidens picked in accordance with our instructions, each 7th rotation around the heavenly body. Robust and firm in body and spirit, voluptuous in shape of similar height and stature, dainty and beautiful, fair of hair and with eyes the color of midday sky. So shall it be. Ominous. Jamal Nigel von Powen. Given the still active ancient servitors over yonder and the blood-stained courtyard, we might perhaps be able to guess at the fate of these unfortunate volunteers. Broken Vox. I cannot go on like this, Helena. I cannot. I served my master loyally, as did my father and his father before that. But this cannot continue. No, I am tired. To bury the corpses of murderers and traitors to the Imperium is the noble thing to do, but now I must conceal the deaths of these innocent young men and women. They are almost children. Cursed be the day when the governor became the ruler of this world. I will break this vicious cycle. This I promise. Tonight I will flee the estate, and together we will journey to the Star Speakers. They will warn the servants of the God Emperor about the heresy lurking in these walls. They will return for us. They will save us. Just wait for me, Helena. Just wait until I return. Okay. Very non-specific. Not even mention of whose protectorate this is supposed to be. Though, I mean, given proximity to Mundus Valancius, you would expect it to be part of our protectorate. We also have multiple servitors active, which, you know, combined with the one standing right inside the doorway and the bloodstains on the floor, I'm going to say is a pretty strong sign of an ambush. The desiccated manuscripts date back a dozen centuries. This palace is probably one of the oldest outposts of the Imperium. Oh, interesting. Okay, so perhaps that's why they didn't specify a protectorate. It might have actually been established before the protectorates really kind of got set up. Bonebreaker Maul. When you hit an enemy with this maul, the target must pass a toughness check or fall prone and suffer a trauma. Wow, that's actually pretty solid. Plus some consumables, notably including heretical grenades. General mix of assorted luxury goods. A second Bonebreaker Maul. Interesting. In fact, this whole loadout here is the exact same thing we found in the other container.
My success is an irrefutable certainty.
Nice, nice. Enforcer Light Boots. Whenever the wearer parries an attack, they immediately strike back at the attacker. If this attack deals damage, the wearer performs Kick to push the enemy away. That's actually pretty fun. Crusade Plate Gloves. Whenever the wearer deals damage with a heavy weapon, the enemy suffers +1 stack of Perplexed. If 3 or more stacks of Perplexed are already on the target, they are also staggered. Meh. We only have one heavy weapons character and she's on the bench. Shroud of Dauntlessness. Whenever the wielder performs a heroic or desperate act, they gain AP, MP, and temporary wounds. Basically a once per combat thing, not a huge deal, but interesting in that it's our first Space Marine cloak, which makes it a bit weird that these aren't. What does Ulfar have right now? Wolf Pelt Cloak, plus 10% armor. Performing a melee and range attack in a single turn. Inflicts Perplexed on all nearby enemies. Okay. No, that's better. At most, the Shroud of Dauntlessness would trigger once per combat. Might see if I can fit those boots in somewhere, though.
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
Alright, well, only one way to go, so let's go get ambushed, I guess. Hi. The servitor mechanisms are old and obsolete, and the organic parts have been replaced with improperly sized counterparts. Interesting. Okay, I was kind of expecting you to be more overtly hostile. Though the mismatched parts kind of lean back towards the idea that this place, whatever happened here, is related to these ancient servitors. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, well, we've got a whole pile of corpses in the corner there. So yeah, perhaps that's how these things have kept themselves operational all these years. Perhaps they're preying upon the people who come to investigate this palace. They seem benign at the moment, but Maybe they'll hit us on the way back out. Perhaps the former governor servitorized the unfortunate fair men and maidens that were sent to his palace for his own amusement. But they were left with enough of their minds intact to eventually rebel. Sort of like the Fidelio situation back on Footfall, but like cranked all the way up to 11. I mean, those bodies do look pretty fresh for a palace that's supposedly been abandoned for 1,200 years. Oh, hi. A lushly dressed, vaguely human-like carcass sits reclined in a massive Calixian oak armchair. Calloused brownish-blue patches cover the dead flesh, overlapping one another like snake scales. One of the hands, claws of exposed bone, supports a grotesquely bloated face. The creature's chest remains motionless, and its eyes stay tightly closed. And yet the muscles in the distorted face twitch, ever so briskly, when you approach. It is not dead. It is dead, but in the wrong way. It's not... Cabela bows her head as if ashamed of her muddled explanation, then places a hand on her weapon. I ask your permission to fix... that. What? Cassia covers her mouth with both hands, trying to speak quietly even as her body is shaking. The Lady Navigator's wide-open eyes are brimming with terror. I want to leave this place. Right now. Yeah, it might be a bit late for that, Cass. I don't think we want to turn our back on this one. Governor von Powen, right? You can end the charade. We know you're alive. The creature's eyelids flutter open, searing you with the unnatural glow of its yellow pupils. The disfigured lips twist, stretching the smile wider and wider, until the thin skin bursts with a sharp snap, revealing row after row of pointed teeth. The twisted guttural voice bursts from the creature's throat, and it roars with laughter. Welcome to my feast. The creature idly jiggles its chins in an effort to remember human speech, its jowls melding into its shoulders and faintly glowing ribcage. A peculiar accessory shaped like a scarab and covered in luminous patterns has painfully lodged itself in the flesh of the creature, something that undoubtedly used to be a man. You have heard of the powerful Xeno artifacts from the distant Halo stars, discovered by humanity millennia ago, artifacts that belong to a race more ancient than the most venerable among the Eldari, artifacts most impure, fatally dangerous, forbidden in the Imperium on the threat of the cruelest of tortures, and yet capable of granting the darkest of human desires, a means to cheat death and to embrace life eternal. Wow, this did not go in the direction I was expecting it to. Scarab, that would imply Necron, right? Yeah, I'm going to assume that this is something even Val wouldn't want to mess with. Cabela, about your earlier request. Consider it granted. Bratsung vest Rost go. I'm Jet. The elucidator fails to interpret the twisted speech taking root in your mind like a pestilent weed. The creature contentedly smacks its lips. I will finally taste the savory flesh again.
You will beg for mercy, but I will grant none.
And there go the servitors. Including this one, which Val just immediately kicked over. I do love that talent, as rarely as it ends up coming up. Also, man, so yeah, I guess I was completely off base on this one. I mean, maybe not completely. The governor was the problem. Just not in the way I guess I sort of anticipated given the setup. Though I guess it does at least run, like, parallel to what I was thinking, which was that this palace had essentially become a trap. People were wandering in and getting killed whilst looking for easy loot. I had assumed it was to sustain the ancient servitors, but it was actually, I guess, to sustain this guy, who in turn, I guess, kept the servitors active to make it harder for would-be prey to escape. You know what it actually makes me think of is there was another palace we found as well on one of the, like, way back in Act 2, I want to say, where we found the remains of a nobleman sitting at, like, a grand dining table covered in bones. That does make me wonder if something similar played out there as well. Some sort of artifacts uncovered in the Coronis, which granted eternal life, but at the expense of constantly having to feed on other sentient beings, or just feed in general, perhaps. With that one running out of raw materials to subsist upon, whereas this one, you know, obviously still had a fairly ready supply, perhaps because it was closer to regular trade routes, as evidenced by the pile of carry-on there. Alright, let's take this guy down. We're a bit boxed in, but we should be able to clear some space relatively quickly. The corrupted nobleman himself is pretty chonky, but I think easy enough to focus down. Our main concern here is just our backliners catching strays. Thankfully, Kibbles is up third, so, I mean, she'll clear house pretty quick. But let's get Abby set.
Isn't this a job for the serfs? I am a navigator, not a servitor.
Actually, can we... Yeah, that's slightly better. Puts him outside the zone, but also all clustered up.
I will do my duty.
Fall back. Might as well move the front zone while we're at it.
Me, if you insist, Lord Captain.
All right, Kibbs, do your thing.
There is only death, yours or mine.
Hippity hop. Nice. Wow, that was
I shall not fail.
actually way more effective than I was expecting. Light dings, but hefty DOTs.
As honor ordains.
And Dance. We're going to reverse once we're down to our last AP. Lovely. We're setting him up for a pretty solid round 2 kill.
The shadows will see it done.
Flank clear. And I guess reel it back. I will note, I did pull the Visor of Inevitability off of her. She's currently rocking the Vizier's gear. The Visor was fun, but she's still plenty deadly without it. Wow, okay, I mean, case in point. I was setting up for a round 2 kill, and she got it in 1. So now I guess we're just on cleanup, unless this guy can unslushify himself. Which isn't necessarily beyond the realm of possibility. I mean, we are also out here to catch up with Trevantius, and last time we saw him, he was a blood smoothie. Yeah, not really a great setup for Ulfar, but that's fine. We've got him front and center. I'll keep them all distracted. Abby. Let's start trimming the edges. Guess we shouldn't have you stray too far, though, just in case this guy does somehow pull himself back together. Like, we've got a whole other area just past this wall, it looks like. So, I mean, I'd wager we're not done here. Yeah, like we haven't seen the weird little council chamber that was in the loading screen. The circular courtyard with the chairs arranged around the bloodstains. Given that this guy's been using this place as his hunting ground for 1,200 years.
On it.
I imagine we've got like a whole gauntlet set up to get back out. Actually, more efficient to go through Cassia. That way Ulfar gets a whole extra turn. As opposed to just one extra attack. moment. Oh, come on. I should have had that. Alright, fair enough. We're pretty much done anyway. And Pask. Let's wrap this up. Ploink.
Running binary override.
That's fine, that's fine. You're good, bud. I gotcha. There we go. Go ahead and try that again.
If I may.
And we're good. Is what I would say if I hadn't completely forgotten about this one. Kibbs, you want to help us out here? Thank you, Kibbles. And level up. Also, no immediate signs of... Oh yeah, that guy's still soup. Alright, well, I guess I overestimated your 1,200-year-old machinations. Tempestuous Carapace. Decent, but nothing all that competitive with our current endgame gear. And Halo device, which I will note does not in fact look like a scarab. The wearer gains plus 25 strength, toughness, agility, and perception. Use agility instead of intelligence, toughness instead of willpower, and strength instead of fellowship. Immune to injuries and trauma. Regenerate wounds per turn. Whenever the wearer kills an enemy, any damage they deal is increased by 1% until the end of combat, while their mental stats are all reduced by 1 until the end of combat. Which I will say does completely remove any temptation I might have had to have Val actually use this thing. Not, I suppose, that there was really much temptation to begin with, not based on what we've seen since we got here.
I always keep my options open.
I mean, I suppose we could toss it to, like, Abby? Or Ulfar, perhaps? Oh, there's our, yeah, there's our council chamber. Big old battle arena looking area. Though possibly inaccessible? Yeah, it's not even on the map. Huh. Perhaps they had more planned for this area at some point during development. But I guess for now we'll just
Is there money
be
to
on our way.
made?
And, methinks we may just not hand that Halo device to any of our allies. Actually, maybe we'll see if Heinrichs is willing to take it off our hands. I'm not familiar with whatever this thing is supposed to be, but I do get the very distinct impression that whatever it is very much bad news. Even if just based on the fate of our fiendish friend there. Especially given that Ulfar's already pretty voracious. And I probably wouldn't want Abby eating his own family. Heinrichs, I've got a thing for you.
To what do I owe this visit?
Well, I wanted to perhaps hand you this thing, but much like the sword pommel, you don't seem interested, so I guess I'll hold on to it. I'm sure that'll end well. But thanks. Hey, Cece. Okay, well, let's hit the pause button. I'll figure out these level ups. And we're back. All right, let's do this. And, as usual, it's all pretty much just vanity pics. Nothing we really need, just things that seem like they might be fun. Val, for example, will pick up Inevitable Enervation, essentially a plus 10 lethality boost on his primary target each round. And then he also picks up a stat bump, which will sink into Perception. That'll round him out to 90, get him slightly closer to that 100-point threshold. Next up, Abby. And he will just grow ever tankier with Resilient Beacon. A 1/3 resistance to crit damage. Won't come up often, but we'll be glad we have it when it does. And then we'll also go ahead and round out his toughness, bump that up to a nice even 100, which will also bump up his strength, thanks to peak condition. So effectively a twofer. Next up, Cass. And as per usual, she's already got all the navigator stuff, so we will just continue banking nice passive boosts. In this case, Personal Zone, plus 5 perception and agility to both herself and nearby allies, as long as she's standing in a zone. Not exactly a game changer, but, something that's relatively low maintenance. And then we'll also round out her willpower. Push that up to 120. Next up, Pask, who technically would have actually been better with Personal Zone, but only to the tune of 2 points. So we'll just have him grab Adjusting Frontline instead, which honestly feels more on brand for him regardless. That's a nice variable bump to our frontline zone. And then, as for his stat boost, technically he could use almost any of these, but I think ultimately we're going to go with Toughness, even though this will not, by itself, bump him up a rank. It will, however, set him up for a bump up next level. He will then be at 60 Toughness, which in turn will also bump up his Strength, pushing it over 80. So not quite a twofer, but like a 1.5er. Which brings us to Ulfar. And he will continue playing up the whole suppressing fire shtick with breaking attack. Adds a modest armor and toughness debuff to his opening flamer attack. And characteristic. There is some temptation to go for toughness, which would round to 110. But I feel like he's actually already tanky enough, and it would not get him even close to bumping up another point of strength. So instead, I think we'll shore up a different area. and perhaps go for perception. Round that out to 90. Make enemies slightly less likely to evade that opening fire. And then we'll use the next level up for toughness or maybe agility. Whatever else needs rounding out. We're getting into the final stretch here. Just a few more levels, then we hit cap. And rounding things out with Kibbles. She has a number of talents that could potentially be useful. But the thing I really noticed in going through them is that the vast majority of these are setups for multi-turn combos, which she really doesn't need because she rarely leaves someone alive for more than a single turn. So I think ultimately we'll just grab Bloody Mess. You know, much like the thing on Abby. Not one that'll come up often, but it'll be fun when it does. Though to be fair, it might actually end up coming up a lot more frequently than I'm anticipating, considering the weird way her attacks all tend to be multi-strike combos. And then we'll round out her agility. Bump that up to 90, get a bit more dodge, initiative. And that's it. Level up complete. Sadly, I don't think we have enough time to take on Travantius today, but I think we can at least park ourselves right on his doorstep. Perhaps take out these elusive plunderers in the process. Honestly, might not even make it there. Depends on whether we proc any travel events. Waking nightmares. Seneschal Abelard Wersurian was found in his quarters in a trance-like state. He was pacing the room and talking to an unseen interlocutor, asking the same questions over and over. Why won't the fever break? And, does the esteemed surgeon have the faintest idea what he is doing? Then he sat by the bed for a long time, clutching the sleeve of a void suit and repeating, "Everything will be all right, son." With great difficulty, the enforcers managed to return the Seneschal to his senses. By the order of Seneschal Wersurian, the report on this incident has been erased from the ship's logs. Yeah, that's rough. I think we got that one back in beta. But, considering that Abby has never actually mentioned a son, I think we can assume that didn't end well. It's rough, outliving the people you love. That's the Explorator fuel station. But we don't have any fuel to spare, so on we go. An auxiliary generator chamber on the artillery deck was overgrown with the thick stems of some thorny plant. The Voidsman reported the vegetation throbbing and sighing, and when they tried to lop off an offshoot, the cut started oozing a disgusting pus. Some officers claimed to have heard someone trapped among the thorns. The desperate weeping of a woman's voice echoed from inside the compartment. Yeah, we'll maybe keep that planted right where it is, I think. As soon as the Voidsman started welding the chamber shut, a heartbreaking cry rang out, and green shoots burst out of the gap. However, the crew's loyalty to the rogue trader and their unshakable faith in the God Emperor spurred them to finish the task. Only when the ship left the Immaterium did the diabolical moaning subside. Just another day in the warp. Quick spot check on colonies. Assorted goods. That's a stack and a half of Mechanicus. And we've got an unidentified beacon, which I'm assuming must be our Dark Elf hideout. Snow World? Yeah, that's... Okay, well... Actually, more stuff going on here than I was expecting. That, okay. I think the plundered void station is our hotbed of Xeno heresy. We cleared that back in Act 2. Though I will double check that off screen. Let me just spot check our ship real quick. It's been a while. Okay, no, we're good. Let's do this. A chase is ensuing behind the stained-glass windows of the bridge. Several pirate raiders are trying to catch up with the cruiser, fruitlessly firing salvos at it from their macro cannons. The officers of the Augur crew report they're chasing the elusive Contempt. It's a legendary pirate flagship that has been plundering cargo ships around the Expanse for several hundred years, masterfully evading patrols and escaping unpunished with the loot. Shelby, the proto-speculator, the elusive Contempt's captain, addresses you via Vox. In a cheerful, almost affectionate voice, he thanks you for the high-grade resources mined by the Von Valancius Extractiums, and also for your invaluable assistance in his escape. As soon as Shelby finishes his speech, the elusive Contempt swiftly enters the warp, and a powerful salvo intended for his vessel explodes against your void ship shields instead. Right. Well, let's leave their remains strewn across the stars. I mean, I'd try to talk him down, but that doesn't seem to be an option. Interesting that Shelby just kind of auto-escaped. I wonder if this is like the first stage of a multi-stage side quest, or if it's just a glorified cameo for some expanded universe material I'm unfamiliar with. Oh, well, I mean, scratch that. They're actually still here. Well, Shelby, methinks you may have spoken a bit too soon. Because you are still woefully within firing range. And I'm not too concerned about the gaggle of Vipers on our sides, since I believe those are just torpedo ships. We should have ample time to maneuver out of the way of their initial volleys. Oh, yeah, you're pretty well and truly screwed here, my friend. You contempted fate, and now you pay the price. Unless, of course, it turns out you're strong enough to just tank our shots. I guess that is also a possibility.
Let them taste our fury.
I mean, we're already in it, so might as well keep hammering.
Let the void sort them out.
At least he'll know he was in a fight, I guess. That is some small consolation. Oh, we're so close. Do we have anything else we can do to this guy? I guess... no. Boarding party? Okay. I mean, if that does keep him locked down, we've got him. Now we just have to survive the nest of Vipers.
Burn in the fires of retribution.
Oop, I think he just exploded. Aha! Farewell, Shelby the Proto-Speculator. And yeah, pretty spot on with the Vipers. I think they are just torpedo boats, so... as long as we can maneuver our way out of... I do notice we've still got, like, the warp bubble. Perhaps... I wonder if Shelby still escaped, like, with some sort of smaller warp vessel or something. I guess we'll see what happens once we've cleared the rest of these snakes. It is interesting, though, that they have that warp effect. I mean, I have to assume the devs took into account the fact that someone might round one nuke this poor guy. Why else would they put him on the map, despite the narrative fluff saying he had already escaped? Though I suppose that could also just be a simple editorial oversight. Perhaps much like Tervantius, the rumors of his death are greatly exaggerated. No, sword 9? I forget which one we're up to again. 8? 20 XTX? I will also admit I didn't realize these guys had mag guns. I thought they were just torpedo boats. Perhaps that was the other one's, the Cobra class. No worries, though. We've got this. All right, Sword, get behind me. We'll keep you covered.
Engage the engines. With the force of a supernova!
Man, we are not having much luck with that Godsbane all of a sudden. Might have to swap that out for something else.
Smite the enemies of humanity.
No, Sword. Sword 8, I think. Farewell, my friends. Your needless sacrifice will not have been in vain. Nice.
Torpedoes away!
Also nice. Yeah, I guess the shields must have eaten the bulk of that first shot, so I guess the Godsbane's still okay. Oh, wow. And we're good. To be fair, I suppose even if the Sword 8 hadn't just been mag-gunned, it probably still would have ended up getting torpedoed. I sincerely doubt it would have been smart enough to get clear. Such is the fate of the sacrificial escort ship. Oh man, I feel kind of silly for rushing all those Imperial Navy projects now. This alone would have been like 2 or 3 ranks worth of Navy loot, which sadly is all completely useless to us now. We still have some use for the scrap, but all of the ship parts and such we're picking up now are pointless. Huh. Okay, I guess Shelby's just dead. I've got to say, I was really kind of expecting some sort of follow-up event. Either Shelby auto-escaping or perhaps pleading for his life in an escape pod or something. Huh, maybe I wasn't supposed to blow him up. Okay, I'll look into that, make sure we didn't accidentally break something, but, man, I guess we're just too dang deadly for our own good. But in the meantime, side quest complete. I'm fairly certain the plundered Void Station is something we've already done, which I suppose just leaves our snow world here. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I'll take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, figure out if I accidentally broke things with Shelby the Proto-Speculator, and we will pick up here next time, as we refuse to let sleeping Drukhari homunculi. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Yuri V23, Revenant, Alois, Arrow Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Smite the enemies of humanity!